GT Holidays, South India's #1 travel brand.
Darling, electronics, mobile மற்றும் furniture in 10 கோடி தீபாவளி பரிசு மழை.
Taste the symphony of Milky Mist Capella Chocolatum.
I went and stayed at her home, and she was like giving me all tips and tricks of how to act like a woman and all of that. And I like, so I think the current acceptance for transgender people is extremely superficial. Cut a woman, I think. That's what I remember. You remember this scene with, Sangudra Vaisala Sangeeta?
Yeah.
I hated it. I absolutely hated it. I didn't have to prove to anybody. That is what I think I'd end up feeling. So I think I'm still not there.
So one of the things, broadly in India, we never find, there's the odd movie about somebody who's gay or somebody's lesbian or whatever, but certainly not like in the West, right? So this is even more of a radical thing, because you're not even addressing gay or straight, and I don't know if I can say this, but there is a man who says, expresses a certain kind of interest in this character. So these are complications that you have because you've this to create the tension. Are you saying that even though your parents accepted you, that's wonderful, and did you have no tension with your brothers?
No, that is not true.
Or with friends and or at school, or because
Absolutely. See, the thing is, my parents were very supportive, but outside, I still had to go deal with people, day in and day out. For example, when I was a kid, so I went to this convent, a Christian conservative convent, and you always have boys talking about you. For example, they'd be like, saying all those words that you wouldn't want to hear about yourself. And sometimes when there are a group of boys, I wouldn't even walk near them because I feared that they would just find it an opportunity to mock you and all that. That is always there. By the way, the scene that you're referring to about that person expressing their interest, it exactly happened in my life. That is not drama. That is not written for the film. The movie is inspired by true events in the sense a lot of the events actually happened to me and to a couple of my friends.
Right.
But then the core context is not what happened to me. It's like fiction. But the events are all brought from my own personal experience. So when I tell you that my life is a fairy tale, I actually mean to say, independent of what anybody else said, I had this beautiful place called home that I can go back to, which actually meant nothing else mattered. So the more I decided to ignore what somebody else says, the more confident I became about who I was. I was so confident that I could actually make a movie and tell everybody I'm a transgender person. I have made a movie about a transgender person, right? And that confidence comes from predominantly my parents and my brothers. I'll tell you about my brothers. When I told my mom that this was during a Diwali, that next Diwali I'm going to come as a woman. She said, as I said, as long as you're happy, I don't care. But she said, the extended family, which is my brother's wives and their family, I don't know how they're going to take this. It is important that during a celebration like Diwali, everybody comes in and there is harmony and there's happiness. So what are you going to do? And I said, okay, I'll go to I'll talk to my brothers. But then the next day, I decided to talk to my sister-in-law first, my elder brother's wife. She was in the kitchen. I went and told her, next time when I come for Diwali, I'm going to come as a woman. And she was like, she saw me for a moment and said, yeah, whatever works for you. And then as I was leaving the kitchen, she was telling me, I make these silk threaded bangles. Which color would you prefer? I said, pink. And the next year, when I came for Diwali, I had pink colored silk threaded bangles. So my family is a blessing that I have had.
Truly.
And, truly, right? And very few people have that kind of a blessing. But when it comes to the movie, as I said, it needs to be a bit of grayness, bit of, character and drama and stuff like that. So I had made the family to be fictionalized and a bunch of things, but the friend's character is exactly Stephanie Diroway, a friend of mine from Seattle. She worked with me at Amazon. I told you Friday I went in as Santosh and Monday I went into the office as Samyuktha. I was extremely nervous those 2 days because there are people who I, day in and day out, spent time as a man. Now I'm going to present myself as a woman. I'm going to wear a dress, I'm going to wear a wig, I'm going to put makeup. With this voice, I didn't change my voice. This is exactly how my voice used to be. I was extremely nervous of how they would accept me as a woman. Right? What happened is a different thing, but I still have the 2 days to get through to get there. I went and stayed at her home, and she was like giving me all tips and tricks of how to act like a woman and all of that. And I like walk, and I practiced wearing heels and all of those, right? And the next day morning, not around 9:30, which is when we usually go, because I thought it'll be crowded in the escalators, sorry, the elevators and all that. And she took me. And then she actually walked me to my office. Like her office is like pretty close to my office, and then she dropped me, which means she walked with me, and then she said, "Take care, call me if you need anything." And then in 5 o'clock she'll come, she'll pick me, and we did that for 1 week until I was really getting comfortable, with how I was presenting myself, right? And I took a lot of inspiration from that character and put it in the friend character. Similarly, the love interest. Similarly, the Gazette scene, it word for word exactly happened like that in Chennai in 2022. It exactly that was how it happened, right? So a lot of things. There are a lot of drama is there in my life as well. Right. And I thought a perfect mix of these two would make for a better movie.
Right. What made you say, yes, there's enough drama happening around the protagonist that's played by you, right, but I also want a boy who's queer. He's saying sometimes I identify as a man, sometimes I identify as female, sometimes so that there's that character as well. Right. What made you say, I want that additional character as well?
Yeah. So I think the current acceptance for transgender people is extremely superficial, in the sense a person would be okay saying, "Oh, I learned about a transgender person who became an inspector. Wonderful, right? I see a transgender person begging in traffic. I'm going to say, oh my God, why can't they go do a job? Or if they come to me, I will give them a job, etc., etc." But when it comes to your life, your kid's teacher, when she becomes a trans person, would you accept, etc., etc., right? So this acceptance of transgender person who you respect otherwise. For example, that person is a respected teacher in their school. That is what I wanted to establish. But then just because they become a transgender person, there is this drama. Now, come one level down, which is basically within the student community, what kind of things happen. What I'm telling you is it has not changed at all, especially in small towns like that, right? The kind of bullying, the kind of mockery and humiliation that people who are different, it is not even people who are queer. For example, when I was a kid, actually I was less mocked compared to a person who had a much darker skin, or a person who actually had stutters, right? The kind of mockery that they face is no less than what I faced, actually. So I want to bring in that aspect of what is actually happening within the younger minds compared to, so this is what is happening with the older people, what is actually happening in the younger minds. Now, how that student community see this person who they actually respected until now and something has happened, and how do they see somebody who is with them? Will things change because of okay, now let us say the acceptance of that older person who we have respected, will that create any impact to people who are younger, and will it kind of trickle down and say, okay, I've seen them, they can still lead a normal,
I've seen my teacher.
Yeah, I've seen my teacher. Now, if you are different, would I be okay with you being different, or would I tease you both, or it is one person and the other, why would you do that? Why would you see that if you are respectable and if you are something, then I'm going to be okay, but if I don't care about you, I'm going to mock you simply because I not like that you are different. So I wanted to bring a little bit of that. And in the end, there is one important thing I wanted to say. When a transgender person or a gay person comes out and they are successful, they're expected to be the torchbearers of everything that is progressive and everything will change, which is never going to happen, which has never happened in my life. I have never seen that. There are some
also,
small
isn't the
changes.
expectation itself a little wrong?
Little wrong.
Yeah.
Like, why am I? See, all I want to be is live as the desired gender and just do my life. Don't expect me to be much more, much more than what I really am, which I want. Because the thing is, currently transgender people, if they have any roles, they're completely like very good, and like even if you touch a little bit of their other side, people are like, oh my god, you're showing transgender people in a bad light, and how dare you, and all that, right? I wanted to touch a little bit of that too. You don't have to be all good, extremely wonderful people. You can still be a regular, selfish person who just wants to lead their life well, right? So it is that contrast as well. And also, in the end, there is also a commentary about how the people in the administration use transgender or LGBT as a card to kind of progress their agenda of being inclusive, but nothing happens on the ground level.
So do you think that, again in the film, this is about the film, how much of, with both the parents and with the students, when this character appears as a woman, it's without any preparation. It's like a bomb is dropped, right? It's like, it's literally like you said, one day I was Santosh and 2 days later I was Samyuktha.
Right.
So but what happened in the US is it's happening here. It's like one day they see you in a pant and a shirt and whatever, and then the next day close crop, and then the next day you're in a sari and you have a handbag and you have a wig. And in general, did you feel that the film could have benefited by some level of preparing the parents, preparing the students that, listen kids, this is what's going to happen. So, I mean, why did you feel that was not necessary, the preparation?
Yeah. So one is definitely informed by my own personal experience, right? The other thing, I do not think we have the system here to be able to do that kind of prep, right? For example, I'll tell you what do I mean by the system here. When I was in the US, though I say it's a 2-day thing, that is just me, right? A week ago, the HR from Amazon told me that they actually have an email template where I could just fill in my name and my gender. Think about if they had to create a template, it should have happened enough times that I think, and then they actually had a proper procedure of, okay, we are going to inform this to everyone, and that did not come from me. It came from the system. The system said, if you are going to transition from male to female, this is the way to make it easier, right? Now, as I'm not thinking about myself and my personal experience and putting it in there. Think about what that person would see how I wanted to do this. One, there is enough pressure on that person to do something, within a very short period of time. That is one. Second, there is absolutely no system that is going to help ease anybody into this process, which is why when the person says, I'm going to come in as a woman next week, actually it is not a day. In the movie, it is actually a week, right?
Yeah,
now,
I meant it figuratively. Yeah,
but you understand what I mean, right? Now, the people who are supposed to make it easy for anybody for that matter, their immediate reaction is, no, you can't, because there is exams, there is this and that, right? Now, let us talk about the person who forces this on everybody, right? He just comes and says, you take care of it, I just need it for a purpose. I just need the person to transition. I'm going to let the person transition for a different kind of a purpose, right? Now, who do you expect is going to be able to put together something like that in the movie, in the context of the movie? Now, this person who is transitioning, they don't know how they are going to be there, let alone trying to think how the others are going to behave. What should I be thinking? Like, how am I supposed to think? These teachers are progressive teachers. These teachers are this. I'm going to get all of them together, let them debate how this is going to go, and then let them write the script of when to do what. Now, how do you say when to do what? Who is going to say all of that? I did not think that situation was conducive to any kind of preparation from anybody, because I don't think anybody had that. If it had to be, it was probably the friend who was supportive, who was a little bit more intelligent and more conscious person, right? And the shock of them presenting as a female, though it looks a little bit of, oh, you should have told everybody, so maybe the reaction would have been better and all that. I think it added to the drama itself, in my personal opinion, because I didn't want this to be a documentary. If I had wanted to be a documentary, I would do all of those things. I wanted it to be drama. And you won't believe, when I was talking to an assistant director earlier, who was going to help me direct the movie, and later I decided to do it myself, they said, the first day when this person comes as a woman, we should let the person come in during the prayer, when everybody is standing and this person actually walks like this, and in unison everybody turns and looks at her, and everybody is like, oh my God, who is this beautiful teacher coming in and all of that. I was like, what are you talking about? Because even in my personal case, when I was in the US, I decided I won't go into the office at 9 o'clock simply because I thought it would be like, flooded with people running through the elevators, and I wasn't sure how they would receive me, so I kind of sneaked in when nobody was around. That is exactly what this person would do. They would sneak in when nobody was around, and even that wasn't cinematic enough for people. If I had put all this discussion about preparing for this, I thought it would be more of a documentary than a movie, and I think that was a creator's choice. Yeah.
Fair enough. That actually is, the creator's choice is a great, way to say, because ultimately we are interested in how you see the film, right?
Yes.
That's what the thing
and
is.
I think this is the reason why I wanted it to be like that, because nobody would have known is the simpler answer.
Yeah. So this film, shows, again, this goes back to the documentary aspect of it. You don't, without telling too much about it, you talk a bit about hormone therapy,
Right.
and doctors, the importance of psychologists, and all that. And I think there is a value to what you've done, which is to make a movie and not a statement.
Yes,
Right?
exactly.
You've made a movie, so you're kind of a thing. But given the fact that a lot of this information is going over for the first time, probably to a lot of people, do you think that dwelling on that a little more would have helped the actual physicality of the transformation?
Right. No, I do think that's a very fair comment to make. I think
just to clarify, I completely agree with why should I be a flag bearer, that part of it, right? But I'm just asking from the viewpoint of a movie.
Yeah. No, totally.
Yeah.
I think I should have spent some more time with the person before the transition than after the transition. I personally felt that after the movie was made, again, something to learn from and get better in my next movie.
Yeah, wonderful. Why do you think in India, the third gender, or in Tamil as it's called, Tirunangai, why do you think that's generally accepted? The concept is generally accepted, sometimes even revered. For example, there is a moment in your movie when you come outside and there's a person asking you to bless their child because, whatever. Why do you think that's accepted? Not so much gay, lesbian, other intersex, other kinds of things, as opposed to this particular thing, which is like, okay, this we can understand or tolerate, but the rest of it is, why do you think that's?
It is. I think it is just a matter of people having spent, time either seeing them, transgender people in the roads or the traffic or whatever, or seeing such characters in movies prior, right? So, for example, the concept of transgender, even in movies existed, 30, even 30, 40 years you see movies, though they were made fun of, the concept existed, right? So when, let us say, a person decides to transition, right? Sorry.
What are the earliest film that you recall seeing a transgender person in Indian film?
A scene that I absolutely hate. I think it was Kattaboman, I think. That's what I remember. You remember this scene with, Sangudra Vaisala Sangeeta?
Yeah.
I hated it. I absolutely hated it. And there's another scene which actually hurt not just me, but the wider LGBT community a lot, is Avanani kind of a thing. You won't believe, there were so many instances, so many people told that to me, and it absolutely, it made our lives, hell, right? But coming to your earlier question of trans, see, people have they don't understand the concept, but they have an idea of the concept. A person who could be, but what the way they see is they could be neither male nor female, or possessing both the characteristics, which is probably brought in from Hindu mythology, Ardhanarishwara, but the concept of Ardhanarishwara is not this. What Ardhanarishwara says is, in a human existence, there is 50% male and 50% female characteristics, which is not the representation of a trans person, but there is already some conceptual understanding of part male, part female lying around everywhere, and people have seen transgender people for some time. So even people who do not accept them, they acknowledge the existence of the concept. Now, if you were to say two men can be partners, right? And how do you define two men in love? Probably two men holding hands, or being probably physically closer, or whatever. It creates a sense of unease among all men. And I don't know if you have seen this documentary about, or some video about how Indian men actually holds hands. Have you seen that? I don't know if you've seen that.
I haven't seen a documentary, but there was a person I met, a photographer, who went to a lot of smaller towns.
Yes, I was talking about that.
Captured a lot of men holding hands and walking by, and like where there was no big deal.
Right. Yeah. Now, think about that concept of being gay, more prevalent as like previously, as like transgender people, right? It would have created extreme unease among men to get closer, because what if this person thinks I'm a gay person? So people who were gay never ever came out with that for fear of doing this. For fear of the mockery and humiliation and all of that, and it was never spoken about. But do you think that men do not experiment under the sheets? I can tell you, and I don't know how my parents are going to take, and I've never told this to anybody. As a boy, I've always had sexual experiences with men who are now married with kids and all that. So under the sheets, it was always happening. Nobody was willing to accept. Transgender concept was much more widely available. Now, in the name of inclusivity, who are you ready to include? Those people who have known, they've been there for a lot of time, and you said, okay, let them come in. The others who are under the sheets, if let us say you are ready to acknowledge the existence of gay and lesbian or whatever, what stops from anyone turning back at you as a man to say, oh, I remember you with that guy sitting very closer. Was it that? Is that why you are now okay, now suddenly acceptable? You think it is okay? What stops anybody from saying that? And that is going to happen. I'm pretty sure it's going to happen. I think that is why I think transgender people slightly more acceptable compared to gay and lesbian folks. Yeah.
Right. So your film has a line which says that transition is a journey. Would you say you've reached the end of your journey?
I think how human life goes on, and the end is usually death. It is very similar for me being a transgender person, both physically and emotionally. Physically, because I as a biological male, do not produce estrogen. So I take hormones until I die. Like I'll have to take estrogen pills until I die. Now, that's the physical part of it. That actually makes small changes over the course of my life, and I can't avoid it. Emotionally, as I grow into being a woman, I kind of keep thinking, what nonsense is this about this male and female? Why did I really have to change to do what I really wanted to do? I love the change. I think I look incredibly better compared to what I was before, and people notice me a lot these when I'm like this than before. So I'm very happy with whoever I am. But then, being the kind of person who thinks what, why, and how, I keep thinking, did I really have to do all of that? Did I really have to come out to everybody? Did I really have to make a movie to tell everybody this is how the life of a trans person is? I don't have to. Probably my emotional and mental journey will keep taking me there, and then probably at some point in time I would feel I didn't have to go through this to do all that I wanted to do. Maybe, but as I said, I love who I am, much more comfortable like this. But I didn't have to create all the I didn't have to prove to anybody. That is what I think I'd end up feeling. So I think I'm still not there. I'm still not there. Even now, when I go in an elevator, when I get a call, even from my mom, I don't pick the call, because people see me like this and they are like, oh, this is an interesting woman. And then the moment I take the call and then say hello in this voice, there is a flicker of this from almost everybody in the elevator, and that annoys me and that makes me uncomfortable. So if I really don't have to interact with the person, I'd prefer not telling the person I'm a transgender woman. I have absolutely no problem being a transgender woman. It's just that that is not what defines me. But then the moment I say hello, immediately that is what will define me, and I don't want that. Right? So now I'm very conscious. I'm still doing. But then eventually I'll grow emotionally, and then I'll get to a place where I'm much more comfortable. Yeah.
So may the rest of your journey be more comfortable, and
thank you so much.
May your film have a good journey too.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing all this information.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah.
So all the best.
Yeah. Thank you so much. This is wonderful. I really loved the interview. Thank you so much.
GT Holidays, South India's #1 travel brand.
டார்லிங் எலக்ட்ரானிக்ஸ் மொபைல் மற்றும் ஃபர்னிச்சரின் 10 கோடி தீபாவளி பரிசு மழை.
Taste the symphony of Milky Mist Capella Chocolatum.